Welcome to Carolina Sculpture Studio. My name's Clint Button and I'm a granite sculptor. Welcome to video number 186 of the Virtual Stone Carving Apprenticeship. Gonna take care of a little project right now. This is just something's got to go in and out, and it's been hanging around. Got to get it done, and was fortunate to find an 18-inch granite sphere from an old fountain in Washington, D.C. from a private residence, apparently, that had been salvaged. The only problem is it has a hole drilled through it for water. It's also been set on some grate for a while. You can probably see that it's got rust stains, so I'll have to address that. This is the bad end, and it sits in the receiver. It's about that big around, so I'll clean this off. You shouldn't be able to see it. But we're going to put a piece of stainless rod into it to secure it. And we always use threaded stainless steel because it gives the epoxy more, just threaded all thread. And this is stainless. This is 1/2 inch. And we'll cut this. We always use this because it allows the epoxy a little better grip. If you put iron or plain steel in there, it will rust. And so old time they used to do, sometimes they even use lead to seat everything in. And the problem with the old steel is that it rusts, and it doesn't just that it rusts, but that it expands as it rusts, and it can cause things to break. To put a 1/2 inch rod in an 1.5 inch hole, that's a lot of epoxy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take I've got a scrap of stone here. I'm going to mark this off, and I'm going to drill a hole. I'm going to try drilling a hole right here in the center. That's 1.5 inches. I went ahead and marked this at 2 1/4, just an arbitrary. It's about as big as I can get out of this piece all the way across. And I'll mark this center, and I'm going to drill a 1/2 inch hole right here in the middle. And then once I drill that, then we'll cut this down. We'll go down a little ways. It doesn't have to go forever. But I'm going to work this down into an approximate 1.5 inch diameter hole. 1.5 inch diameter plug that we could epoxy into this. And I'll do the same thing again with a second one over here after I cut this one. We'll see if this drills. We may have to use a different piece of stone. One thing about using a piece of threaded rod, you have one element. You've got the potential to remove it depending on how you secure it, because sometimes you can unthread it and you can turn it to get it off. Now, we're not expecting to ever take this off. I don't think anybody else will ever touch this thing. So, but this is what's being done. So I'm gonna get my hand drill out and hook this up, and we'll show you what we're doing. All right, how to plug a hole. I've got a CP9 hand drill. This is a light hand drill. It worked really well. And yeah, see what the camera says about this. Got that all done. That holds. Oh yeah, that hole's plenty deep enough. All right, now we'll mark this off, and I'll swap this out, put my hand machine on. As these wear, you wear off the sides, and then the shank gets thick by comparison, and when that gets worn down, they don't drill as deep. But that's just a quick release When you turn the air off, now I can just get my saw and my hand machine, and we'll just cut this to size. It's a great drill. Now I'm just going to use hand point and hand set. I've got a point, I've got a hand set. It's a square end. My hammer is just going to saw this down into shape, work right into the section. Keep doing this until we get down a ways. I'll be back. Let me show you what I'm doing. Got my hole that I drilled. About that deep. So if I cut that off right there, then I'll have another piece to use on the other side. Instead of cutting two separate pieces, I'll just make one long straight one. And then I'm going to work this down, get it pretty straight by eye. It's coming. It's a little crooked. It's not perfect. All it's going to do is fill space. I'd like the top one to be pretty close. And yeah, this is OSHA approved and everything else, you know, running the saw with one hand and holding it. You could very easily mount this in something, but then I'd have to keep moving it to be able to turn it, to keep it trued up. So I'm just going to keep working on this, and we'll probably cut this in two before we separate them. I don't know. I'll see. I'll see how it looks and see how this breaks off. Back to work. Now I'll trim that top off, and it should work pretty well. That's going to work pretty good. I know I should be using safety, everything in the world. I didn't say this is how you do it. I said this is what I'm doing. This is the reward you get. See that big crack? I knew that drilling this was going to be tough because you tend to have stress imparted into the stone around the drill hole. Now, I'm going to work this careful, but theoretically, I can go down to there. And if this is secure and not broken for the rest of this, I'm going to epoxy it anyways, put lots of glue. This is just to hold space. Whenever you drill holes, if you drill near the edge, it blows out. And that's why I tried to drill this where I was an inch in from all the edges, at least an inch. I was over an inch, actually, closer to an inch and a half on the narrow end. And, but you still can have issues with the stone cracking. So I'm going to keep working this, see if I get it down to where it fits. It's pretty close. I want to see how it looks, okay? And if it's a failure, I'll have to start over again. But at least I'll have my good piece here that I can use for the other side, okay? Back to work. Pretty close, but see how much that's cracked, and that's just falling apart because of the stresses from the drilling and then just grinding on it. If I'd used impact tools like a 9-point or anything, this would have fallen all apart. But that fits. So now I'm going to turn it around and check it. I should be able to saw it off right there and still have at least an inch or two to support. If I put it in that far, and I can epoxy that, let that cure, then I can glue the other piece in, and it should be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this other end off now that I've got an even thing. But by having the longer piece, it's easy to handle. Doing a little short piece is asking for real trouble. Okay, I sawed it apart. It's not perfect, but it should work. So we're gonna mix up some 2-part epoxy and glue the bejesus out of that thing. And I'll leave it protruding just a little bit. Well, this one I'll probably slide in so it's completely in there. And I'll plug this hole up, and then we'll epoxy the pin in separate. And then this one will do at the top, and I'll leave a piece sticking out so I can cut it off and get it to match the top pretty well. Try to get that in a good match. This is going to be hidden. The only issue here is it's going to be, we got to make sure not to spend a lot of time handling it by the pin, because that may cause that to blow out. So we'll put that in there, and this is, like I said, this is all just got to, maybe I'll even leave that out. This just has to stabilize the pin. So get the epoxy. The epoxy that I use is just a 2-part for Miles. It's just says custom bond high performance epoxy, and I like it. We always used a Kimi when I was apprenticing. Works good. The only issue with the Kimi is that it's harder to mix. And this, you just mix equal parts of the two different products. And grab my knife and mix it together. And Kimi has a cream paste stuff and then a liquid activator, and there's two there's two concerns with that. The liquid activator can, this may be obvious, but when you're mixing it, don't use the same stick for each one, or you'll wish you hadn't, because you'll set off and waste a whole can. But with the Kimi, it's real easy to put in too much activator and it just goes off. And then all of a sudden you've got a problem, because you could block a hole. It's even possible to you'll set something and you'll put too much activator and it just hardens like immediately. With this, you only have to make sure you've got equal parts. So it helps people like me that don't know the difference between 2 drops and 3 drops. And it's always smart when you mix any epoxy like this, to have enough left over that you can make sure that it cures. Because if you use every drop of it, throw it away, you can't keep track of whether or not it hardened, and if it's been applied or together and installed, and you don't know, that can really be a warranty issue. Okay? I've got to work this a little bit. When I put it back together. And this isn't critical because we're never going to see this. We just want to make sure that it's really even. We got to clean that rust off anyways, so we'll do that. Now let's go over on the other side, and I'm probably going to put a little bit of tape on there, try to clean that up, make sure that it's really nice. Okay, so I don't really know I can get the camera over there. I'm not going to move the stone just for that, so just trust me. I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, I got those on. Take a look and I'll show you. That one's done. We're gonna let this set, and then I'm gonna cut probably a 6-inch length, 8-inch length of this rod. Have, at least a couple inches sticking out, and then 3-4 inches going inside. Over here at the back side, I left an outie on this side because I've got to trim it off, and I want to make sure it doesn't puddle any water. And so I've covered this up really well. It looks like it should be good. Then we'll saw most of it off and then tool it up just a little bit so it blends. It's not going to be perfect. There'll be a white mark, but this is a budget deal. This isn't the hand carved, polished, hand polished everything job that it could be. And I'll have to go in and just tune that a little bit to get rid of some of those rust stains. And I'll acid wash it. That'll take most of that out. It'll probably take these are spots of natural iron in this stone, I believe. But that's from sitting on a grate. So we'll come back in a day or so and see how it looks. Let this cure. Make sure to put the right lids back on the same can. Set this aside. I'm going to clean my little spatulas off so I can use them again because I'm cheap. And we'll leave the one that we mixed it with to make sure that it actually cures. All right, we'll be back after this cures and see how it looks. Now that everything's dry, this is in good shape. I'm gonna put some effort in both with a hand machine and I had a point in here. And like a small chisel or a point, where I should be able to break this up a little bit. Much like I would if it was a point mark. And I'll be able to get most of the color of this rust off and still this is a small square chisel. I'm going to look. I thought my point was right here, but I don't see it. And you can also use a small round chisel just to break these rust stains up. And I don't really want to take off a lot of stone, but by making them erratic, it'll still look just like what was there in the first place. And then we can acid wash and we should be able to take care of most of it. And I'm going to clean up this extra epoxy on the outside, just around the hole. Once we get up close to it, I'll stop. But the idea is to try to make this disappear. You see, by doing this, you can still keep a rough surface and it'll blend in and look really good. I just want a little light hammer, just enough to make that work. And I'm not going to move it because I got to move the other side too. And if we make it look too perfect, it's going to stand out and look weird. So we want to just try to fix it without fixing it. I don't know how else to say it. But I'll do this and then we'll cut the other side off. Be back in a little bit. It can even work if you're careful, and this is something that I'd advise against until you're a lot better at it. You can sort of just bounce your chisel. Make a pretty random surface. never really know how much the acid will take off, and you may have to do several rounds. This light color is one thing, but when you get into this dark stuff, especially if I've encapsulated it, this will be hidden, but I want to clean it up anyway. All right, let's take a quick look. Tune that up pretty good. Like I said, sits on a thing about this big, so that'll all be hidden. I'm going to leave the pin loose so that they can glue it in the stone, and if the height's a little different, they won't have to drill it. This will, there. With just a little bit of epoxy in the way. That way it can go into the stone as much as they need it to, and they'll make installing it easier because they can just drill a simple hole and install everything on site the way they need to. All right, so that's done. Let's walk around and see the other side. The big thing about the top is going to be at least 10 feet off the ground, and so once we wash this will brighten this up. And that it won't stand out as much, but you can see it, but it disappears pretty well. And that's going to be at the top of something about 10 feet off the ground, so unless some big, really tall dude or Bigfoot comes to look at it, they're probably never going to see it. So I think that came out pretty well. So we'll wrap this one up, call this project done. I'm going to swing it out here and acid wash it as soon as they're ready for it, and we'll take it into town and they can do what they want with it. So it's just a quick repair job, epoxying a couple of holes on a 18-inch diameter granite sphere. My name's Clinton Button. I'm a granite sculptor here at Carolina Sculptor Studio with the Virtual Stone Carving Apprenticeship. Thanks for coming in.